Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So, Jay, we have seen in the comment section many people talking about the pay-per-view numbers relative to Gervonta Davis and Frank Martin. They are telling us we need to do a video on that because they thought that the numbers were extremely low based off of intel or a report that we got from Rick Glacier. I've told you guys on many occasions, do not trust anything that Rick Glacier has to say in regards to the PBC. Yeah. He's been saying that they've been out of business or going out of business since 2016. Now, Dan Rafael is reporting that Gervonta Davis versus Frank Martin did roughly 325,000 pay-per-view buys to 350. So that is almost double what Rick Glacier reported. The interesting thing, Jay, is I thought that the fight would do somewhere around the high threes. I was thinking it'd come in 380, 390 with a cap of 500. 350 is a little bit lower than what I would think. 325, 350 is a little bit lower than what I was expecting. But you got to think about this. The promotion, as far as I'm concerned, was a little bit lackluster in terms of what we've normally seen from PBC. We talked about this, or at least I talked about this on our live yesterday, and we do a live every Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you guys come check it out. But I talked about this, and I specifically stated that Amazon, at this moment, they are not concerned about pay-per-view buys. They are more so concerned about integrating boxing into their platform. From my understanding, this is just what I have heard. They're more so concerned about integration and making sure that everything is working appropriately, and then they'll be concerned about pay-per-view buys. And of course, we heard from Steven Espinosa that the way things work with Amazon is different from the way things work with Showtime. There are a lot of things that Showtime was handling relative to the production, and now PBC is responsible for it. So you kind of want that runway, and I think that's partly the reason why we haven't seen a schedule yet for the entire year, Jay. I think they want to make sure that everything is set up appropriately, that they're making the appropriate transition. We don't want to see things like what we saw with DAZN with double billing and people having issues with actually accessing the fights. I think they're taking their time. It's a slow build for them, and we'll probably start to see some of those bigger fights later in the year or early 2025. But still, all in all, this is a good number. If I think about it, if it sold for $74.99, it did somewhere between $325 and $350. That's about $24 to $26 million of revenue from the pay-per-view. I heard a $14 million gate, right? I don't know if that is true or not, but if that is true, then they did about $38 to $40 million of revenue with this fight.
Yeah,
with Frank Martin. Frank Martin, who is a guy that is not a big, it's not a household name. When we compare and contrast that to what we saw with Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, they are two well-established names in the sport of boxing, and they did similar numbers, high threes. And Steve Kim reported that, and that's a number that I had heard as well. About, I think I mentioned that number maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks before Steve Kim put it out there. So Tank did similar numbers with Frank, a guy that's, a lot of people said had no championship experience, was no name, so forth and so on. So
prospect.
Exactly. So does this solidify Gervonta Davis? Well, let's think about it. And I know a lot of people want to talk about millions of pay-per-view buys and all that other stuff. I mean, everybody's not going to do that in every fight. You have a special fighter that does that. That was like your Floyd Mayweather. Even Manny wasn't doing that. Your Oscar De La Hoya was doing that. Canelo's not currently doing that. I think the last one Canelo had that was $1 million. Was it Triple G2? Can't remember if 3 did. I don't think 3 did $1 million. I think 2 was the only one. So that was the last time that he did $1 million pay-per-view buys. So it's not that easy to do $1 million. I expected, like I said, high 3s to 5 as a cap. Jay, what's your thoughts on that?
No, it was around where I kind of was expecting. I wasn't expecting no mega 6, 5, 7 or nothing like that. People, and the thing about it is no one had expectations for this fight, unlike what they did with the Devin and Ryan Garcia fight. people had lofty expectations. They were saying stuff like 1.5 million, Jerry. And so was Oscar was going on with that as well. And all of a sudden you ain't paying them, they ain't getting money on the back end because it didn't hit the numbers. Something like this with someone like Frank on there, that people say that was a prospect. They talk bad about Frank every which way. I thought I still think he's a top 5 lightweight fighter right now, even with the loss of Tank. It just takes time for him to build his name even more out there to be a big player as far as putting cheeks in seats on there. But this is about right. I kind of figured it'd be around this number here between 3 and I was thinking between 3 and 4. I didn't think it'd be much more than 4 at all on that. And along with also what Tank saying like he wasn't happy with the way the pressers and the way the marketing was going with this fight as well, because it kind of start off, then kind of like boom, it flatlined for a little while on that as well. So I mean, him being upset and it still did between 325 and 350. That's not bad in this day and age. And everyone just want everything to be a million is crazy to me. That's not going to happen all the time. You always got to have the right dance partner for it to happen, and it has to be the right fight. It just can't be anyone. But if you can fight with someone that's unknown, like a Frank Martin, you still pull in, do a 325 to 350. That's pretty damn good. The days of 750 being on a regular is not happening. Not even for Canelo. Canelo's not doing that as well. So I mean, that's dropped for him until he gets better competition to fight someone like David Benavidez. But I won't go there on this video here. I did it for another time. But nah, that's good. That's a decent number for this fight here. We'll see what he does against the next fight, because if this fight did this well, imagine what the next fight for Tank's going to do, as far as if he's rumored to be fighting Lomachenko. It's gonna be more. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think the whole setup, like I like the way the setup is currently with PBC and Amazon. I think it's a nice setup. But I think once they get comfortable with what it is that they're doing and their roles and the whole process and showing with the production and everything like that, I think then we'll see things really elevate from a PBC perspective relative to Amazon. But I do want to go through Gervonta Davis's numbers real quick so people understand what he's done over his career. So versus Santa Cruz, 200 to 225, versus Barrios, 210 to 215, versus Isak Cruz, 200,000, versus Rolly, 275, versus Hector Garcia, 200 to 215, Ryan Garcia, 1.2 million, and now against Frank Martin, 325 to 350. So that's a lot of pay-per-views that he's sold over his career. I would still say we can't, at this moment, we can't say he's the face of boxing relative to pay-per-views according to these numbers. Canelo still would be considered American boxing, but he's number 2. He's number 2, right behind, and we'll see where Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford end up shaking out here in their next couple of fights as well. So interesting stuff. You guys tell us what you think in the comments section. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people trying to blast this, but it is what it is.
We're going to move the goalposts.
Of course. But let us know what you think. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and we are out.